it would take quite a long time for people to figure out what a year was.
Right.
If you have I mean, we're going thousands and thousands of years ago. We have to establish, like, okay, a day is, let's put this stick in the ground. When the shadow is here, this is where we start.
Yeah.
When the shadow goes all the way around like that, okay, no, maybe we can like mark these off. Okay, now we've got a sundial.
And there are different timekeeping conventions depending on society. Like ancient Jews had a different timekeeping convention than ancient Romans. And so that's why you see, like in Genesis chapter 1, it talks about there being evening and there being morning, is because, well, Jews today, right? You start the Sabbath on sundown the day before, right? So that's why. It's because there's different cycles. And so we go on a 24-hour time system. But ancient Jews had a different convention of that. Ancient Romans had a different convention of that. Ancient, Mesopotamian cultures had their own kind of conventions about these things, and calendars were all over the place. In when you get to the Julian calendar, and they're like, we gotta standardize this thing because everybody's operating on a different, the Julian calendar and then the Gregorian calendar. Ancient timekeeping is very inexact and very messy, and so you kind of got to take certain things with a grain of salt,
Right.
in terms of that. But ancient calendars, I don't even know. I know that talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls, the group in Qumran, who were like a Aryan group of Jews who believed that the Jews in Jerusalem had basically capitulated and were not holy enough. And part of their reasoning is that they believe they have a perfect calendar. And so they use a different calendar that doesn't have to do things like incorporate an extra month every certain number of years because, their thing is not perfect. And part of their reasoning as to why they're like the chosen is that they have a timekeeping system that they say is perfect.
Many cultures used a 13-month calendar, right? Like, what was the logic behind that? Does that work?
I don't know.
The idea was 13 months, 28 days each month, and you wouldn't have to have leap years and all that shit.
Yeah.
Archaeologists, okay, there it is. World oldest calendar, 12,000 years old.
Yeah, that's wild.
So it is on Göbekli Tepe. Oh, the ancient carvings of the sun, moon, and various constellations sits on a pillar. Göbekli Tepe, 12,000 years old. Researchers believe the ancient people used a so-called lunisolar calendar to mark the changing of the seasons.
Right.
Interesting. So it was at least representative of the fact that we know when the days start getting shorter, it starts getting colder, and then it warms up again. The days start getting longer.
This is why solstices are so key in like most of human history.
Right.
It's because you got to figure out what's a marker point.
Right. Which is one of the things that's so fascinating about some of the constructions of the pyramid, where on the summer solstice, these pillars line up so perfectly that the light shines straight down these hallways and illuminates everything. It's like, how did you guys nail that?
Yeah, I mean, just because they're ancient doesn't mean they're stupid.
Well, they're just brilliant. I mean, they weren't just stupid. They were fucking brilliant. That's what's, we weren't just ancient. It's just so weird that people were so vastly more intelligent, at least in terms of their ability to build things, than anyone else anywhere around there. That's what's so weird about Egypt to me. It's like there's amazing pieces of, like, even ancient Greece is incredible, but I can kind of believe you did it.
Right.
When you deal with 2,300,000 stones in the Great Pyramid, and some of them like 50 tons, 60 tons.
That's pretty crazy.
500 miles away. Like, what did you do? How the hell did you do it?
I mean, there have been a lot of things that have been lost. We still, as far as I'm aware, don't know how the Romans made their concrete. That Roman concrete is like this thing that survives. Like they were able to make domes out of it.
Well, you know about terra preta in the Amazon. Do you know about that?
No.
Oh, terra preta is their particular rich soil that is man-made soil.
Oh, yes, I did know. I do know about that.
Combination of charcoal and bacteria. And it's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievably fertile in terms of your ability to grow food on it. And they made it, and we don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
And it's man-made stuff.
Yeah.
Which is so bananas. It's like a giant chunk of this stuff that is all over the Amazon was made by people specifically to encourage the growth of plants.
I mean, this is why history gets me so excited.
Oh, it's so amazing, and it's so interesting too. I was watching something on YouTube yesterday about the Mayan culture and the Aztecs. I went on a deep dive when I started getting into getting ready for this. But when you think about how many people existed back then, and then Europeans come and everybody dies. Everybody dies of disease. And it's like, how many people died? Like millions of people died here. Millions of people died there. Like, holy shit! And you go through like the story of the collapse of the Mayan civilization, the collapse of the Aztec civilization. Like the accounts that these priests had of visiting these Aztec markets and how incredible they were. These people from Rome who'd come to visit the Mayans. They're like, this is unbelievable, or the Aztecs rather. Like, this is unbelievable how sophisticated they are. And then
gone.
Everybody's dead.
Dunzo.
You just got to go, wow. How many times has this happened in history?
Yeah.
Where people have visited places and brought their cooties and killed off a giant swath of the population. And one of the things that they're discovering now in the Amazon, which is so fascinating, is through use of LiDAR. You know, they're discovering like, oh my God, this is like all populated.
Yeah.
This whole thing was populated.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
The ground penetrating radar stuff.
And the trees and all the rainforest is mostly from man-made agriculture.
Yeah, that's wild.
Nuts.
Wild.
And this is all recent
Yeah.
that they're figuring this out.
Yeah.
Which is also so fascinating about history, is that it is a constant and never-ending search.
Yeah.
And that even in today, with as much information as we have, you can pick up your phone and ask them, you know, when was Nero born? It'll tell you, like, instantaneously. We still don't have answers to a lot of really fascinating questions, like the Olmecs or all these other civilizations, like who, where did they come from? Why do they look like this?
Yeah.
Why did they make these big stone heads, you know, or Stonehenge? It's another one. Like, Jesus, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many versions of that all over the world, and the search for our origins is one of the most human endeavors, one of the most, because to know that we are particularly unique. We're so different. We stand out from every other animal on this planet. And there's this crazy, wild war of biology where life is just eating life all around us. And we just got to some crazy place that far beyond any other creature that's on this planet.
Yeah.
And we did it in a bunch of different ways. We did it in a bunch of different ways all over the place with different scribbles and different icons and different gods and different things. And we're all wondering, like, which one, where did it start? What was the origin of all this? Like, what was the need to write these things down? What purpose did it serve to have these myths and legends and stories? Like, was it just to keep society together, or was it to retell a very important story that was a very unique thing that happened at the dawn of time?